Is film school a waste of time?
Like film school versus no film school. I would say you describe the feeling of running an agency.
I mean, it feels a lot like herding cats. My route into this business was meandering and self-guided. YouTube University only gets you so far. Welcome to Great Take, a video production and marketing podcast based in Austin, Texas. We are real practitioners working in the field, producing everything from TV commercials to social media content, and then running that content through every marketing channel on earth. We see what works and what flops, and we'll cover it all on this show. If you're interested in video production or leveraging video to supercharge your marketing, you have come to the right place. Today, we're talking to our in-house video director, Keegan Cook. And Keegan, I've got a spicy question for you.
Lay it on me.
Is film school a waste of time?
Hey, Andrew, that is a nuanced topic. I think no is the short answer. But that answer comes, I think, from a privileged position. Someone who has the money to go, has the time to go, has the time to spend not really making an income or making less of an income than they would otherwise. I think in that circumstance, though, it's not a waste of time.
What were your biggest takeaways from film school? When you look back on film school, what do you think is the biggest value of that?
I think there's like two main things that provided the most value coming out of film school. The first is maybe the network that you build there. I would say 90% of the folks that I would work with professionally after school, I met them in school. I would say the second is probably the freedom to fail. When you're in the pro industry or when you're doing a job for money, there's expectation, there's clients, there's things to do, and you can't really fail, or you can't do a bad job. In school, like, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to watch your short film. You can fail as much as you want. You can make the dumbest thing you've ever seen. Nobody cares.
Has anyone checked your film school GPA when hiring you for a film job?
No, my film school GPA has never been checked for a job, I don't think. I've been asked where I went to school, but for reference, I was on the dean's list. So not that it was hard. I mean, my homework was like, watch Citizen Kane or watch Sunset Boulevard by tomorrow. So it's pretty easy.
What did film school not teach you that you've had to learn afterwards?
I think it depends on the film school, but one big thing that I went to UT Austin in their RTF program, and I think one of the big things they don't really teach is crew positions. I think I learned a lot about writing and directing and like cinematography, which I guess you could argue is a crew position. But I think below the line stuff like grip and electric, hair and makeup, props, art department, stuff like that wasn't explicitly taught. We kind of figured it out through different student short films we would work on like the weekends and stuff like that. But really the focus of the course content was on those above the line positions. And so I think it would have been nice to have some more actionable knowledge going into the real world right after school. I mean, I started as a PA, and so just knowing like what is crew parking, like what does base camp mean, like what does first team mean, just even vocabulary, I think, of those crew positions, I think would be way helpful.
True or false? A film student comes out of film school thinking that every set they're going to work on is going to have 30 crew members. But when they realize that the budgets that they get out of film school might only give them 4 crew members, they don't know what to do.
I'm going to say that one's true. I was coming from all these student films where everyone's working for free and we're all donating time and stuff. And so every weekend we had 20, 30 people that, we had nothing else to do. We're all like in a college town for the weekend away from families and obligations and things like that. And so on every set you had, a 5-person G&E department, you had hair and makeup, you had like a 3 or 4-person camera team, you have all these different positions. And in the real world, it's like you have to juggle so much, especially right out of school.
Did your film school experience prepare you for the commercial world or more for the film world?
I think the focus of film school was definitely more narrative with there was like a little dash of documentary thrown in there. I don't think we talked about the commercial filmmaking industry much at all in film school. That was something that I was really exposed to afterward when I started working professionally. But in school, it was all about writing, characters, motivation, that sort of thing, or like finding character and story through observation, like in a documentary setting or something like that.
You're several years now into your professional commercial career. What are the things that you learned in film school that are applicable to your commercial career now?
Well, I like to think that a lot of things that you learn about narrative filmmaking apply to commercial filmmaking, like obviously working with actors, locking things out, writing. The difference is that everything has to be quicker and more rigid. You have to really time things out or do it a specific way so that it cuts exactly right or whatever. Whereas in a narrative setting, maybe you have a little bit more freedom to, cover the scene in a bunch of different ways and then, find parts of it later. But in the commercial world, there's just like no room for error. But a lot of it, I think, transfers over. There's like a commercial look, which we weren't really taught in school. Like we were taught more of a narrative look, if that makes sense, or like a narrative look and feel, especially pacing and things like that. So commercial's a lot faster. It's a lot brighter, typically, not always, but a lot of it does transfer.
What would be your advice to a young filmmaker or a young person who's interested in video production if they're thinking about going the film school route or like the DIY, teach yourself, self-taught YouTube university route?
I love YouTube University, like as a concept. That was me in high school and in middle school and stuff. I was just absorbing as much as possible. Even now, like I think my biggest piece of advice for like film school versus no film school, I would say you really need to be honest with yourself about how you learn. Like, do I need to be in a formal setting? Do I need to have deadlines and due dates and grades? And do I need to feel that sense of obligation? Or can I actually reliably be a self-starter and sort of go through that? I think film school was always in the cards for me. It was always sort of like the next step. So I didn't really consider that choice. But I think with the resources out there now, it is a lot more of a choice. And I have plenty of friends who did not go to film school and are, just as experienced, if not at a higher level than I am at this point. So I think sometimes those 4 years can be a bit of a learning ground, somewhere where like you stumble for a few years and then you kind of get on your feet. So then people who went to film school and people who didn't kind of like meet up at the same place. And sometimes they can really accelerate, your career depending on who you meet, where you go, what city you're in, stuff like that. Can I ask you about film school?
You sure can.
So, Andrew,
Ask me anything, Keegan.
Did you go to film school?
I did not go to film school.
What are your thoughts? Like, what do you see, like, after having worked with a lot of like crew members who maybe have and haven't gone? What are some of your like observations as someone who never went?
My route into this business was meandering and self-guided. And so I graduated college sort of at like the dawn of YouTube. And so the first videos that I got into were like Casey Neistat.
I love Casey Neistat.
These kind of like early YouTube bloggers. And in that world, I guess what I really learned from Casey Neistat is it didn't matter what kind of gear you had. It didn't matter your crew size. Like if you could just tell good stories with a little point and shoot camera, then you could at least grow a YouTube channel and keep people entertained.
Yeah, that's everything.
And so like that was super inspiring to me because I just graduated college with a history degree and like, not applicable at all to filmmaking or making commercials. But I watched those Casey Neistat videos and figured out like, oh, if I just practice this and kind of get this entry level gear, then I probably could make something that's worth watching. And so a lot of that was self-guided, teaching myself, watching YouTube videos. But then, I mean, the best thing that I did getting started in this career was an apprenticeship. I went to another commercial director in town who owned a production company, and I was coming out of a sales and marketing job, and I just told him, hey, I can work with clients, I can do customer service, I'm really good at selling. Can I just be your apprentice and learn more about video production? And he, I think, appreciated the ambition and like the business savvy to emphasize sales, and then just kind of took me under his wing and just taught me video production. So that's how I learned audio and editing and camera setups and lighting. And that was a 3-year apprenticeship post-college.
I think apprenticeships are like the mentor-mentee relationship. That's something like, I'm glad you touched on that because I think that's so big. Like even after school, I had 2 really big mentors that like, I feel like pushed me to the next level each time. And unfortunately, I think sometimes if you're a really good PA, like they're going to keep asking you to PA because you're really good at it. You know what I mean? Which makes sense. But if you're trying to move up, it's sometimes difficult unless you either do it in a spec or something and then present that to a producer and you get lucky, or like you get lucky in a different way and they just say, hey, I think you can do it. Let's give you a shot kind of thing. And so I had a couple people who were like that. That's so true. Like no matter if you go to film school or not, I think like those personal relationships are like the biggest thing.
I mean, when I first started thinking about this topic, I was sort of doing this binary of like film school, no film school. And what I think actually applies to both of them is that mentorship aspect.
Yeah.
Because YouTube University only gets you so far. And only relying on like being self-taught only gets you so far. Like, you need to immerse yourself with other creatives, and preferably with creatives who are a few steps ahead of you.
Oh, definitely.
So that you can be taught by them, you can be mentored by them.
Yeah, and there's a lot to the business that is not technical. Like I do wish I had more tangible knowledge coming out of film school, like technical knowledge, but then at the same time, I'm glad that we focused almost solely on like poetics and like the hoity-toity stuff, because you're not going to get that like on a crew, really. Like everyone's there to do a job. They're not going to be like, oh, this camera is motivated, the movement's motivated in such a way that the character is showing. Like you're not going to get that. You're going to be like, we need 50 feet of dolly track over there in 20 minutes. So I'm glad we focused on the big picture. Yeah. Because I think almost anybody could learn the technical aspects of it. It's like what you do with the tools that makes the difference. You know what I mean? Like if it were just technical, it would be a completely even playing field, I think.
My hunch is that what you get from film school, or even just like your early film career when there's not much at stake, like maybe you're still living at home with your parents, is just the freedom to just be artistic.
Yeah.
And to like develop your own voice, develop your own style, to just make stuff that, you know, you don't care if anyone really watches it. You just did it for fun.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as you kind of get into the working world, it's hard to maintain that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some people might get representation early on and then that's their thing and they're able to just execute on that thing in a commercial sense for a long time. But then I think for a lot of us, there's just the practical element of like, I need to do what makes money. And of course, I can always apply like my personal creativity to that, but there's also a client involved. Yeah. And we also always have to like serve the client in those capacities. And when you're in film school or you're early on in your sort of experimental stage of your career, you just have unlimited freedom to just experiment, fail, play around, be artsy for artsy's sake.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. There's, you know, obviously in professional work, there's always a stakeholder, like always, literally 100% of the time. And I don't think that you can ever really ignore that. Yeah. You know, if someone else is funding it, you do have an obligation one way or another. You know, even if they give you total freedom, you deliver a final product and then they might have a tweak or something.
Right.
And that's totally normal. Like it's completely valid. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we had this thing called like TSTV, Texas Student Television at UT, and it was
I've seen your work.
It was
roll the work.
Don't Google me on that. But it was that. It was like nobody watched it. We were transmitted into dorm rooms and like maybe nursing homes. So we had maybe 15 viewers.
Wait, why nursing homes?
I'm just guessing. It was just local access TV, gotcha. Basically. And we like literally maybe had like 30 viewers weekly.
Yeah.
And on each of the shows that I worked on. And so there was a point in the beginning of each semester, I'd get kind of in my head, this has to be so good and so funny or whatever. And then midway through the semester, I'd realize like nobody is watching this. Like we have like some buddies in the studio who are like forcing a laugh at all of our sketches and stuff. Nobody's watching this. So I just started doing whatever I wanted. And as long as the station manager like signed off on it, it would go to air. And I made so much dumb stuff like that. Like it just didn't matter.
But something tells me you still love a lot of that content.
I do. Yeah.
Because there's like a purity to it.
Yes. And there's such like a, let's just get a camera. Let's get some friends. Let's go out. Let's do this thing. It's not like, well, where's it going to go? Or, well, what are we going to do with it afterwards? Or do we have to post on social about this? Do we, you know, like there was no maximizing the content. We were just like, we're going to make it because it's fun to make this. And we just so happened to put it on this platform, you know, the Texas Student Television. And That's it. Like we were not concerned with how it would age a week from then. Like it was just, if it's funny right now, let's put it up and done deal.
As a commercial director, what is your pre-production process?
Oh man, I feel like every project I'm still finding like my process. And I would have said that 10 years ago. And I think I'll say it in 10 more years. But I think the process starts obviously with the script or the outline. You know, if you're doing like a docu-style sort of like more run and gun thing, like you always want to know first and foremost, you know, where's this going? Who's going to see it? Like, who is this for? What is the voice of this company, this organization, this thing that we're representing? And once you nail that down, you know, then you can like write the words to go along with it if it's scripted, or you can develop the visual style depending on, you know, those answers you get from those initial questions. And then from there, I'll go usually towards like visual references, like what, even if it's just a mental thing, like categorizing some projects that I've seen before in my head of like, okay, well, I think it's going to look like this, this, and this thing that I've seen before. Not taking shots or movements or anything directly, but just sort of like mashing up a bunch of stuff that I've seen somewhere, someplace, and putting it together in sort of like a mental mood board.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll move into, if it's a more formal shoot, maybe like, you know, casting and wardrobe and stuff like that with those key players. But then I guess the biggest thing is just visualizing it. For me, that's usually through a shot list. So I don't always work with storyboards. When I do, it's great. It does take some time, but I do think it's really helpful when you like totally nail it. But either way, I'm going to make a shot list. It's like a mental like grocery list. It says medium, but I know exactly what the shot is going to look like.
Yeah.
And so when I see that on the page on the day, like, okay, I know this is going to be, you know, at this height, and it's going to be this type of movement with this camera, this frame rate, whatever. So it takes some of the mental load off while still just really being a bullet point of like what we want to get that day. Because there is something to be said about, you don't always get a location scout. Even if you do, you get there with your crew and maybe you find something different, or for some reason or another, we've dressed this area and not this area because we thought XYZ was going to happen. And so then you kind of reformat. So a shot list is huge for me. That's like number one, probably. Andrew, I'm actually curious, what does it feel like? Describe the feeling of like running an agency and all of the, I'm sure, like mundane and extremely exciting things that go into that.
I mean, it feels a lot like herding cats. You know, the goal is that eventually it won't, but it certainly feels like that from day to day. But there's also like a joyful chaos to it.
It's a beautiful disaster.
Running an agency is a beautiful disaster. No, running an agency has a joyful chaos to it. We're getting to work on projects. Every single one is different. Every single client is different. They have different needs. It's different industries. It's different cultures. It's different people. And so you kind of end up getting this portal into many different worlds, which is
cultural taster.
Yeah. Which is like a real privilege of being in the agency world, that there's just so much variety of what we're working on at any given time.
Yeah.
And then the challenge of that is how do you develop consistency with your processes and apply those to all the different projects. I think there's also endless rewards to it when you finally see the final product, a commercial that we knocked it out of the park on, it looks great, everyone's happy. Our social media piece that like goes viral, and, you know, clients really happy about that too. So I don't know, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of rewards, and it's never boring. The goal is that eventually it won't, but it certainly feels like that from day to day. But there's also like a joyful chaos to it.
It's a beautiful disaster.
Running an agency is a beautiful disaster. No, running an agency has a joyful chaos to it. We're getting to work on projects. Every single one is different. Every single client is different. They have different needs. It's different industries. It's different cultures. It's different people. And so you kind of end up getting this portal into many different worlds, which is
cultural taster.
Yeah, which is like a real privilege of being in the agency world, that there's just so much variety of what we're working on at any given time.
Yeah.
And then the challenge of that is how do you develop consistency with your processes and apply those to all the different projects. I think there's also endless rewards to it when you finally see the final product, a commercial that we knocked it out of the park on, it looks great, everyone's happy, or social media piece that like goes viral and, clients really happy about that too. So I don't know, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of rewards, and it's never boring.